no shadows gains the dusty moon. D.A. Robbie, Stephen, Doc immune to fear and darkness born of night. Hunters of shadows bathed in dim light. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among secrets they keep. Nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. Ladies of the night with eyes of red, vampires in the alleys where good men dread, wolfmen howling beneath the pale moon. But justice is coming and coming soon. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep. Nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. Cryptids themselves, yet they stand tall against the darkness, answering the call for every lost soul, every whispered prayer. They fight for the light in the midnight air. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep. Nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. The night is young, the hunt begins. For against the darkness where hope never ends.
Good evening, folks, and thank y'all for joining us on another edition of the Nightmare Hunters podcast. In the studio tonight with me is my brother Robbie Jed Rains, and we're going to do our best to keep y'all entertained tonight. Doc had a lot of orders to cover tonight. Now, of course, Steve's at work, being the schedule of a nurse. He has to be there when they need him, and tonight they needed him. So you have to put up with us two yahoos, and we'll do our best to keep y'all entertained. But before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to all of y'all who are in the chat already. There's a huge crowd, and I want to wish each and every one of you guys a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, and we're really glad you guys are here. I hope this holiday season is full of fun, joy, and peace for all of you. So thank you guys for being with us. And Robbie, how the hell are you, brother?
Doing good. How are you, brother?
I'm good. How's things? You did the shop with the cop the other day. How did that go?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. It went really good, and we had probably over 100 kids between our agency, the sheriff's office, probation, pardon, and parole, sent some people, Department of Natural Resources, the game wardens, squirrel police, whatever you want to call them, SLED, which is our state law enforcement division. So it was a really good turnout, and some kids each got $200 to get some Christmas cheer. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, brother, and I'm proud of you for doing that. That is fantastic, man.
Yeah, that's one of our chief's big things that we do out there. He don't ask us to do much, but that's one of the things that he really expects us to do, which none of us mind doing it anyway. But you know, that's one of the few things that he actually says, "Hey guys, please." You know, normally you say, "Nah, I can't really do that." He's okay, no problem. but that's one that he really puts a lot of effort into.
Dead man, we'll all be praying for you, brother. I'm sorry to hear that. We'll all be praying for you, man. Um, but I'm really glad. I'm really proud of your chief for doing that. As a lot of departments don't even do it,
Yeah,
and it's fantastic. You guys were able to help a lot of kids this season,
yeah.
and that's
And
awesome, brother.
a lot of y'all saw all our hijinks during the past couple of weeks with the gingerbread man. That's another thing. That thing has gotten over 8 million views on Facebook.
That is freaking awesome.
We've had people from Scotland commenting on it saying, "We loved this. This was the greatest thing we've ever seen." So, they finally had to call in the expert tracker, Bigfoot, had to come in and do some tracking for him.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Those videos are great. Your department puts out some pretty funny videos. I like the Halloween ones too.
Oh yeah, spooky with him crashing a patrol car.
Yeah, those are freaking great, man.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's really awesome. Your chief does stuff like that because it's really great, especially the way things are these days. For law enforcement to be seen doing things like that.
Yeah.
And it humanizes the badge.
And that's one thing that it starts at the top. And Chief is just, he's just one of those guys. I've been in this business for over 30 years or close to it, and I've never worked for a chief like him. He's so community. I mean, he gives. There's probably more people in the community that's got his phone number than actual police officers, because people they'll bypass 911 and just call him. Half the time you're sitting there and you hear him sign out somewhere reference to such and such, and you're like, where'd that come from? You didn't hear anything on dispatch. People just calling him and saying, "Hey, there's somebody shoplifting over here," or "Hey, there's somebody," and he just goes, instead of like most chiefs, will be okay, and they would call and have another officer go out and take care of it. He'll just go take care of it. And you won't know anything about it till he signs out on the radio.
Yeah, that's a good chief right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've worked for departments that really could have used chiefs like that.
So have I.
But I've worked for some good chiefs too. I mean, really have. So I can't say everybody, but I can tell you a few. But tonight we're getting together with y'all to talk about Old Green Eyes and the Battle of Chickamauga. It was a pretty intense battle. It was the second largest battle of the Civil War. In 3 days of fighting, and folks, think about this, because the town I grew up in, Lebanon, Missouri, has at the time when I was a kid had a population of about 10,000. It's about 15,000 now. So it's a good sized town. But in the 3 days of fighting at Chickamauga, 35,000 men lost their lives. And that is some seriously blood-soaked ground at Chickamauga. It was also one of the places that was most famously noted for what they call, is it angel fire or angel glow? Angel glow.
Angel glow, yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping Doc would be here.
I think we've been calling it angel fire, but it's actually angel glow.
And I was hoping Doc had been able to be here, or Steve one, to talk more about that from a medical side. But when a study was done later, at the time, wounded men on the battlefield, people were reporting seeing men with wounds that appeared to be glowing, which nobody could understand. They referred to it as an angel glow because they thought it was some sort of divine healing. But years later, one of the universities in the area did a study on the soil there, and there is a type of bacteria in the soil that becomes phosphorescent as it reacts with these wounds. And it actually promotes healing and is very antiseptic to the wound. So it was just one of those really bizarre, almost miraculous discoveries that was discovered right there in the heat of one of the bloodiest battles ever fought on American soil.
Yeah. Lucky for old Jed, that was in the...
Yeah, because in the Dark Frontiers book, Doc and Jed met at Chickamauga.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you got to let that sink in. 35,000 dead. I mean, that's intense. The town I grew up in was only 15,000. So it's well over twice the size of the town I was born and raised in. All of them gone in a single day. And among the cries of the wounded and the shallow graves, witnesses on both sides, Confederate and Union, both documented cases of a large hulking figure with glowing green eyes coming out of the woods and carrying off the wounded and the dead. Um, a lot of people thought Old Green Eyes was the ghost of a soldier who'd lost his head during the battle. There's versions of the story that other people said it was a demon. Other people said it was just a ghost, but just a ghost among the battlefield. But the Native Americans talked about that being there long before. And strangely enough, what color were the eyes that night on Combs Ferry, Robbie?
Green.
Okay, what color were the eyes that night down in Joe Bald?
Green.
What about the eyes down in Moon Valley?
Also green.
Strange, and all of those were Bigfoot encounters. Green eyes, old green eyes. Kind of makes a little bit of sense. But when we start looking into the history of it and the sightings since that battle, I think it's far more likely that old green eyes is a type of Bigfoot instead of a ghost or a restless spirit or anything like that. Well, number one, we know they're an opportunistic hunter, and 35,000 dead laying there on that field. That's got to represent. Well, the smell of that blood would have been. They'd have smelled it for miles.
I mean, not to be too blunt about it, but that's basically like that. That was a buffet.
Yeah, and who's going to miss a few wounded or dead? It's just the fact that this thing came in the mist and would carry people off. That was frightening enough. But the idea, the story behind Old Green Eyes is actually what gave me the inspiration for the beginnings of the Nightmare Hunters, the Dark Frontiers books. Because if you've read the first Dark Frontiers book, Marshall Forrester was recruited at Chickamauga to go after creatures that were carrying off still living, wounded soldiers who were still alive. And it just kind of grew from that. But the legend of Old Green Eyes is not the only time something like this was happened. During the Civil War, people reported hearing strange screams coming from the woods around them. A lot of the same stuff we're hearing today about Bigfoot sightings was reported during the Civil War and even before. Here's the crazy thing, though, is not only was that spotted during the Civil War, it's still being spotted today. Motorists driving through the area talk about seeing a large hairy-covered creature with green eyes crossing roads through the park. That's been reported from cops to park rangers to famous writers. Ambrose Bierce, who fought at Chickamauga, wrote about it. And if that doesn't lend some credence to it, that anything from that period, you don't know what would, because Ambrose Bierce was a very famous writer, and and he did not write horror. He didn't write that kind of stories. For him to talk about the Beast of Chickamauga, it had to have been something that affected him. So Robbie, Old Green Eyes, it's the part of the legend of the battlefield of Chickamauga. You've been over that way. It's in Georgia, isn't it?
Yeah. I hadn't been to that.
Tell us a little bit about that kind of terrain in that area. If you hadn't been to Chickamauga,
Yeah, I hadn't been to Chickamauga. I've been by it, and I've been in that area. It's typical southern woods. I mean, there's a lot of thick pines. I can't speak for what's actually around the battlefield, like I said, because I've never been there. But there's probably a lot of some people call them mountains. We call them big hills around here. Probably some low valleys. It's good, or it's bad territory to fight a battle on, other than the big open space. But it's probably great area. Not probably, it is great area for a creature like that. I mean, plenty of places for it to hide and melt into the woods, as with that adaptive camouflage.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, just because there was so many battles around that area, and that one itself being the bloodiest one of the war, it just there's all kinds of battlefield scavengers throughout time, that have been there or that have, preyed on sick, wounded, and dying on a battlefield. So why would we think this opportunistic scavenger would be any different? And it's, like I said, perfect climate and an area for it. So
Well, here's a little bit of historical note that I find really interesting. Chickamauga was not a name they made up. The area was referred to Chickamauga. It was a Native American term. I believe it's Cherokee. But the area was already called Chickamauga prior to the battle. So, and the Native Americans had already been telling stories about this creature that lived in the area. Incidentally, Robbie, do you know what Chickamauga means?
I know I've heard it, but I can't pull it up right out of my head right now. So go ahead and tell me for everybody.
It's a Cherokee word that means river of death.
Huh. Yeah, them Cherokee are pretty good about naming stuff like that.
And what was it? What are you saying about place names around the country on these old plat maps and these old topo maps?
They weren't
Devil's
named,
Ridge and things like that.
They weren't named that for craps and giggles.
But some versions of the legend, people claim it was a Confederate soldier's ghost who had his head blown off by cannon fire, and was said to be roaming the battlefield looking for his body. Others claim that Old Green Eyes is a beast-like creature predating the Civil War, possibly tied to Native American lore, and some witnesses reported a black cougar-like creature with glowing eyes, while others see a tall, shaggy-haired figure with a devilish grin. Now, if somebody's seeing a big cougar-like creature, that would seem almost more like a Black Panther to me. And while Black Panther is big enough to drag somebody off, it wouldn't, like in a lot of descriptions, throw somebody over their shoulder and walk away with them. That to me that just doesn't fit, especially the modern eyewitness encounters.
Yeah, well, cats don't typically pick things up and put them over their shoulders anyway.
Right. Yeah, a cat could drag something off. But unless it was like the infamous bipedal cat story we got, and even then, hard to say. That whole area around the battlefield is still, well, not only was it massively blood soaked, but it's still, it's littered with just tales of weird things in the woods and hauntings. And it's just a very old area, very deeply rooted in Appalachian lore. And a lot of visitors and even park rangers in the park have reported seeing two glowing green eyes in the mist. And a lot of times sometimes they say it's eyes, sometimes they say they thought it was headlights of another car until they got close. But it's always described as watching them from the darkness. There's a park historian who actually worked in the park cataloging the history by the name of Edward Tenney. And he had an actual face-to-face encounter with it in 1976. And what he described was a tall man in a black duster with dark hair who vanished when the headlights hit him. And that's what he described. And other drivers passing through the battlefield at night often describe strange lights, eerie feelings, or near collisions with figures that appear out of the fog.
Well, I guess that probably lends into the supernatural part of the myth, but.
Well, just because there's a Bigfoot there doesn't rule out other supernatural as well. I mean, 35,000 men lost their lives in 3 days on that battlefield. There's going to be some haunting.
Is it Gettysburg that's got the famous ghost regiment?
Mm-hmm. That's Gettysburg. Gettysburg, incidentally, I believe it was 50 or 55,000 men that were lost at Gettysburg. Yep. And that's the only battle of the Civil War that had a higher body count than Chickamauga.
Wasn't it there that they were filming the movie Gettysburg when they thought the director said, "Hey, tell that unit to stand down," and it wasn't
to get back online. They're out of position.
Yeah, and
we don't have a unit down there.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Robbie? What do you think? Do you think it's a Bigfoot type creature? Do you think it's just a restless spirit? Do you think it's a combination of them?
I think obviously it's both, because it's like Naomi was saying. She said she thought it lent to more supernatural, but I think there is that there too. But I think that I honestly think there's, and it's it's been told so long that the stories have just kind of intertwined with each other. But I think they're 100%. There were cryptids that were going down there and standing in line at the buffet, so to speak. But obviously, with that being such a bloody battle, I think there 100% too is supernatural things going on. And just because the eye shine off of Bigfoot tends to be green doesn't mean that there can't be some spectral thing that they've seen that has a green, shine to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're just outside of Springfield here at Wilson's Creek National Battlefield. It was a pretty bloody battle. It was considered the bloodiest battle west of the Mississippi. It was pretty brutal, but nowhere near the level of Chickamauga. But there's still people that report hearing cannon shot and rifles late at night out near the battlefield. And there have been a ton of Bigfoot sightings in and around that park.
Yeah. I think it's just something like, like we said, a battle it's gonna draw attention from things like that. So that's gonna be there. And then obviously that many people getting killed that quick, that brutally, it's gonna stain the land, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it will leave an indelible mark on the land. I mean, the blood of 35,000 people. Good Lord. In what was it, over 10 years of fighting in Vietnam, like 13, 14 years of Vietnam, we lost 50,000 troops in 10 years. And we lost almost that in 3 days at Chickamauga, and more than that at Gettysburg.
Yeah, wasn't the numbers that we lost more in the Civil War than we did in Vietnam and Korea combined?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, if I remember correctly, the Civil War has, as far as body counts, has racked up more of a body count than every war we've fought since.
Mm.
I might be incorrect on that, but I think I remember reading that.
Well, I mean, what would you say the number was at Gettysburg?
It was like 55,000 lost at
So
Gettysburg.
that's almost 100,000 with just them two battles.
Yeah. Well, the estimates for Union losses alone were over 300,000.
Well, I'm just talking about just those two battles. That's almost 100,000 people in just two battles. And there was a lot more than two in the Civil War. So
yeah, there were lots of battles. And you know what? I'm going to consult the Googles real quick. I want to see how many people were lost in the Civil War total. Unless somebody beats me to that.
Naoma just said America lost more lives during the Civil War than in any other country.
Most recent research suggests that the toll was closer to 750 to 800,000 of men lost in that 5-year war. So estimates are between 750 and 800,000, but they'll never know for sure.
Mm.
That's pretty brutal. So it's no wonder these old battlefields, any of them you find, are likely haunted. I know Wilson's Creek is. That has a long reputation of it. But look at all the ghost activity they've caught on camera just at Gettysburg. So I would say a ground that has had that much blood soaked into it, because I'm sure the Native Americans didn't call it the River of Death because it was a peaceful valley. There's probably something happened there long before. And isn't it strange how dark energy seems to attract dark energy? Like that much loss of life was probably fought there where loss of life had happened before.
Well, I mean, think about, and I know this is not Chickamauga, but you're talking about that. What did the Cherokee say about the LBL? And look at all the
they said it was cursed land.
Yeah, and all the life lost there, and look at all the stuff that happens there. I mean, it's not like that's a new thing that just popped up. I mean, anywhere that you've had stuff like that, and multiple or not multiple, way more than multiple lives lost in quick and horrific fashion. Because I mean, let's be honest, standing in front of a cannon getting blown up by Confederate age cannonballs, probably not an easy way to go. You you lose a leg and you sit there and bleed to death,
Yeah.
or worse, probably. If you
Well, they said that in the field hospitals at Gettysburg, that they hauled along. I think it was 18 wagon loads of severed limbs that were cut off at in the surgeries.
yeah. So I mean,
That's
I
a
think
lot of arms and legs.
yeah, I think that, and that somebody had said something about the arm or the limb piles. That in itself would draw in scavengers, not just cryptids,
Oh
but
God, yeah.
I mean everything, anything that was, and it not even necessarily a scavenger. I mean, that's going to draw in predators. I mean, because that smell, obviously they're probably going to be skittish because of the sound of the battle, but towards the back where the field hospitals are and things like the limb piles were put, I'm sure that was, it could have been a dangerous place.
Oh yeah, yeah. That smell of that blood would probably draw in every predator for 20 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's animals in nature, especially predators, are always looking for the easiest meal,
Yeah.
because there's no just popping over to the ER to get something patched up. If they get wounded, getting a meal, they might die. I mean, they get infected, they become too weak to hunt. So it's all about risk versus reward, and that would be very little risk versus a lot of reward.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's why I say I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's both. I think there is a supernatural, because it's already documented in Gettysburg. We've said that earlier. It's, why can't it be both? I mean, it doesn't have to be, oh, it was just Bigfoot, or oh, it's just supernatural. That both elements can be tied to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and God knows what was tied to it before. I mean,
Yeah.
again, the Cherokee didn't call it the valley, the river of death, because it was a great place to vacation.
Yeah. So who knows what, like you said, what kind of battles took place there before settlers even,
Or dark energy, or ceremonies, or maybe they just viewed it as cursed ground.
Yeah. But obviously they would have had a reason for it, and who knows what that is. I mean, like you said, it could be dark rituals, could have been a battle, could have been any, I mean, it could have been a place where they said evil spirits just happen to like, who knows.
Arlen says the Battle of Mill Springs is between Monticello and Somerset, Kentucky. I have done ghost hunting there. It is haunted. I guarantee you, any battlefield like that is gonna have lingering ghosts. It's just, life ended so abruptly, in an instant, and it's gonna leave a mark. And undoubtedly, there's a huge mark left on Chickamauga. I mean, again, 35,000 dead. That's hard to wrap your brain around. You couldn't even process seeing that many dead all at one time. And anyway, I mean, just looking out across that field and seeing it littered with corpses, and some of them not dead, and some of them glowing with that angel fire, that angel glow, that had to been
Spooky.
a very sobering moment when you looked out across that. And for both sides of the battle, Union and Confederate, to have officers in their journals talk about this big shaggy thing coming out of the woods with glowing green eyes and carrying off bodies, that to me says there's definitely something to this, because both sides, they didn't agree on much, and for them both to document the same thing independently, that to me that says something odd was going on there.
Yeah. Because, well, and the thing is, they're not on the same side of the battlefield either. So if they were both seeing that, that means there was more than one, or because it was going in on both sides, dragging people off on both sides.
Absolutely. So I think when it comes down to old green eyes, as it were, I think it's not just one thing. Now, I think what was carrying off bodies was likely some sort of Bigfoot type creature. But again, that much blood, that much destruction would have brought in, the smell of blood alone would have brought in predators for miles. So
Yeah.
God knows what was dragging off bodies: bears, wolves, coyotes, every predator in the system was probably taking its opportunity to grab some meat.
But what's telling about it is, they're not saying anything about the bears, the wolves, the coyotes, anything like that coming in, because obviously they probably expected stuff like that. So that says that there's probably something to it, because it was just a normal expected thing. They probably wouldn't have said anything about it anyway.
Right.
But if it's something that they weren't expecting to come out of the woods and start grabbing people.
And survivors of the battlefield then, and even visitors that go there today, still report strange lights, phantom figures, and unsettling sensations. The feeling like they're being watched, or feeling like they're being followed. Uh, with the trauma on that land from that battle, that place is just perfect for not only hauntings but to attract all kinds of dark things. Of course, then there's also the Appalachian legend of the Death Eater.
Yeah.
The Death Eater was somebody that would consume or carry off the dead, and it was not somebody that was welcome in society. So, because the historian reported seeing a guy where he looked like he was in a long black coat. So maybe there's some truth to that as well. I mean, look how much weird lore comes out of Appalachia.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff around here. I will
Don,
grant you
yeah, I
that.
think small animals
And
would definitely carry off small pieces. Well,
and
yeah, you got some of the craziest, scariest stories coming out of Appalachia. I mean, I thought the Ozarks were bad, but the more you read about Appalachian folklore, dude, it's terrifying.
yeah, well, and like I said, if any of y'all know who Taco Reacts is, really funny guy. He's from South Carolina, but he lives in the lower part of the state. He came up with some of his buddies that live up here. He said, when your buddies call and ask you to go on a Bigfoot hunt, you go. He said, but also, I'll tell you, if your buddy tells you, get in the truck, don't ask no questions, just get in the truck. He said, and then you find out why they said get in the truck. He says, you get in the truck and you don't. So he had something happen up here. He has not gone into detail about it, at least not that I could find. But I mean, that howl that we play on here that happened just down the road. I mean,
Yeah.
me and Rodney both were in that chat group looking around. There was people in there talking. We hear stuff like that up in these hills and hollers all the time.
Yep.
And we're just the foothill of the Appalachians. We're not in the thick of it here. So I can imagine what goes on way up yonder.
Right, Net and I were just watching an episode of Criminal Minds the other day, and it was set on the Appalachian Trail, and it was about this guy was abducting kids along the Appalachian Trail, and I was like, this could a whole lot be better as a supernatural episode than Criminal Minds, because I guarantee you there's scarier stuff than serial killers on that trail.
Oh yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And I mean,
yeah, I agree with you, K Bowers. I won't even whistle for my dog at night. I'll go out there and I'll call his name, but I ain't whistling. What are you saying, Robbie?
I don't remember. Oh yeah, about Apple. There's, like you said, you start digging into that, and I know a lot of people want to start talking about mountain monsters or the AIM team, whatever, because they were big on the Appalachia because they're from either Virginia or West Virginia. I can't remember which one they're from, but and they kind of mix some of their stuff up. Sometimes they'll add stuff, but then they do have talk about some things on like Spearfinger. That's actual Cherokee legend. The Wampus Cat, obviously, that's an actual Cherokee legend. I haven't been able to find out if a smoke wolf is an actual thing that anybody. I haven't been able to find it, but they do add a lot of stuff in there that's actual lore. Um,
Well, they're trying to do an entertaining television
right.
show. They're not presenting themselves as absolute fact.
Yeah. Well, they're presenting it like that, but they put that little disclaimer down at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Entertainment purposes only. But there, and like I said, I've heard my great grandparents, like I said, all the time told me, don't go too far in them woods and boogers will get you and things like that. But, you know, there was no internet back then. There was no, they didn't have these people were in their 80s when I was, you know, that young. So it wasn't like they were worried about people, trying to discredit them or call them crazy or anything like that. They
Thank you,
said
Robert.
they said the stuff they said because they believed it,
Right.
and it was just stuff that was known fact. And like you've said, I've heard you say it thousands of times. Most when you talk to most people on reservation and most people of Native American descent, it's not like, oh, these creatures could exist. It's just like, yeah,
Just a matter of fact.
yeah. It's just it's like any deer or
Okay, you're
raccoon.
talking about
Yeah,
bear.
yeah, exactly. Because it's just a known fact because they see them most all the time. I mean, when you live in an area like that can't be developed like the areas we live in just by anybody who wants to come in and build a housing development or a Dollar General or any other thing that they just when you live in areas like that and it is a wild area, you see and experience things that most of us don't get a chance to. It's like living in Alaska. I mean, you see stuff you just like Fred's talking about. I mean, or talked about plenty of times.
Oh yeah.
It's just a known fact.
Yeah, they're not making excuses or trying to convince you it exists. They don't care whether you believe it or not because they know.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon when you speak to somebody, especially on a reservation, for them to just not even want to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Generally, they don't discuss it outside the tribe, and on the occasions they do, like when we've talked to William Nighthawk or some others, my buddy Wes, they're just very matter of fact about it. There's no sensationalizing, no craziness about it. It's just like, yes, they're out there.
Yeah.
So even in modern times, Chickamauga is still a hive of activity. Motorists that drive through the area at night are constantly filing reports with local law enforcement about seeing two floating green orbs in the mist. Sometimes they think they're headlights, sometimes they say it's eyes, but once they get close to them, they realize it's not a car. And that's when they're reporting there was something on the side of the road, or something crossed the road in front of the car, or something walked right up to my car. We've got some stories that we're going to be reading here shortly, and what we're going to do is we'll read one, then we'll talk about it for a little bit. So these stories are interesting, and they're all cases from right there in Chickamauga. I don't want to jump into those too terribly quick because we are coming up on the top of the hour here shortly. We'll probably do the first one, and then we'll start talking about it a little bit. Um, Robbie, what do you think?
Whatever you decide you want to do, this is an interesting topic all the way around. So, however you want to go, I am all for it.
Well, we've talked
And,
about the tapetum lucidum in the eyes, and I
mhm.
think I think that is a very well scientifically based opinion on why their eyes seem to glow. And we've known for long periods of time that Bigfoot are opportunistic animals. They will take something that's there. Most predators are that way. Very few predators will only eat something they've killed. If there's a quick meal to be had, they're going to take it. And the region in that area is just perfect. Plenty of water, plenty of shelter, plenty of game. So it's basically a Bigfoot bonanza out there. I mean, it would be absolutely perfect habitat for them, and for them to to thrive out there doesn't take any big leap of the imagination. And ask anybody that spent any time in the North Georgia woods, including Robbie. They're out there.
Oh yeah. Every time Jessica and I have went out, we've had some kind of encounter with some type of cryptid.
And that is the place to do it. Ask any folks that do the research down that way. I mean, you've got the folks over at Woodwalkers. They've been all through that area. Heck, Greg doesn't live too terribly far from that area, and so that's prime habitat. But this first story is taken from the journal of a Union private, and it was found in his notes. And this is after his death when this was actually came to light. But it said the night after the Battle of Chickamauga, the woods were thick with fog. The cries of the wounded echoed through the trees, mingling with the rustle of carrion birds and the distant splash of the Chickamauga Creek. Thousands lay scattered across the battlefield, some alive, most not, and the air was heavy with smoke and death. Private Samuel Carter of the Union Army dragged himself toward Snodgrass Hill, his leg torn apart by shrapnel. He remembered the battle's chaos, the thunder of cannon fire, and the sudden silence when his regiment broke. Now, alone in the dark, he heard something moving through the brush. At first, he thought it was a scavenger, a wolf, maybe, or a cougar, but then he saw them, two glowing green eyes, hovering above the ground, too high for any animal he knew. The figure stepped into view, tall, shaggy, with long arms, and a face more beast than man. Its teeth caught the moonlight, jagged and sharp. Samuel froze. The creature bent low, sniffing at the bodies strewn across the ground. With a guttural growl, it lifted a dying soldier as if he weighed nothing, slinging him over its shoulder before vanishing into the mist. Others would later whisper the same thing. Confederate pickets swore they saw hulking shadows dragging corpses into the woods. Locals claimed the beast had been there long before the war, a predator spirit awakened by the bloodshed. Rangers in the 20th century have told of headlights catching tall figures with glowing eyes, only for it to vanish when approached. Whether ghost, monster, or something older, the legend endures. They call it Old Green Eyes, a Bigfoot-like creature that haunted Chickamauga, feeding on the dead, watching the living, and reminding all who passed that the battlefield was never truly silent.
In the words of Doc, muy interesante.
Yeah. So that was a wounded private laying on the ground who literally watched one carry a guy off. To me, that one's just. I can imagine laying there bloody and wounded after the battle, watching that thing carrying off somebody I knew.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough you sitting there wounded and not knowing if you're going to die from, from whatever wounds you got, and then to look up and see that, and just laying there thinking, "Am I next?"
Exactly. Hey, Wyatt's in the house. What's up, Wyatt?
Wyatt.
And Boondock says a soul eater, perhaps. There are legends. That's part of the Appalachian culture of the Death Eater or the Soul Eater. Could have been something like that. I mean, the legend mixes with reality on a daily basis in the Appalachia. So God knows. I mean, could it have been that? Yeah, could have been all of them. Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of room there. And with 35,000 dead, that smell of that kind of blood would have called to a lot of things.
Yeah. I don't think it was one specific thing. I don't think it was just a Bigfoot, or it was just a dog man, or it was just this, or just, I think that would be what we call it a nexus point for all kinds of things to be brought in. So, some people may have saw soul eaters or death eaters, whatever you want to call them. Some people probably seeing Bigfoot. I'm sure there was probably some dog men in there that maybe just were, big hairy creature, and it just got, all got lumped into a Bigfoot type creature. But, you know, we know that Dogman and Bigfoot are both in the LBL, so why couldn't it, they could.
Exactly. Camo says he was with the 119th when he was in basic, the Rock of Chickamauga. That's cool. I love the old unit histories from some of those old battalions and regiments. It's fantastic stuff. But I don't know. I just keep going back. Can you imagine how that kid? He had to have been a kid, probably
Oh
drafted.
yeah,
Yeah, but this barely 18, 19-year-old kid laying there bloody,
it could have even been
thinking, is
younger.
it coming for me?
It could have even been younger than that.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of them that, as you said, Declan did. That was a lot of,
A lot of
a
kids
lot of,
lied about their
yeah.
age to get in. Well, something interesting to point out is the mention of a specific location that he was trying to get to, Snodgrass Hill. Remember that, because in the other stories, this comes up again. So that's a particular location on the battlefield that bears note. I don't know a whole lot about the Sin Eaters, Hillary. That's something I would definitely like to look into. Those old Appalachian lore, I always find it just so fascinating. So for this kid, it was definitely something like a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no telling what people were seeing. I mean, and you got, just playing devil's advocate in there, you got to have some people in there that some of the stuff they saw was probably just brought on by, the shell shock or PTSD or whatever you want to call it. So some things were probably just hallucinations, but I'm sure it was just a free for all. It's basically the best way to.
Lone Queen's got a good point. Interesting that it grabbed a living soldier over a dead one. That does make it a very interesting point.
The SK Bowers Pumpkinhead was supposed to have been in the Appalachians. I mean, I don't think they out said what state that was in, but
I've heard a similar legend here in the Ozarks.
I think because I think that was one of the only movies Stan Winston ever actually directed, and it seems like I remember he did an interview about it one time, and he pulled that story from a lot of, it had elements of a bunch of different legends that he researched when he was getting ready to do that movie. So there's probably a lot of legends that, hey, we had something like that, or we had something like that, or we had. I'm sure he kind of cherry picked what he liked out of different ones, because I mean it's a revenge demon, So I mean, any kind of story like that's going to have similarities to it, I believe.
Oh yeah, but the Pumpkinhead, that one has always kind of freaked me out. That was a great movie.
Oh yeah,
the sequel's not so much, but
the scariest thing in the movie was the old woman.
Oh yeah,
I'd rather deal with Pumpkinhead than that old woman. Woo!
Damn you! He already has.
Red Holly.
He already has. Roxanne, I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you. But I know there was a version of that from here in the Ozarks. I'm gonna have to find it. It's in one of my books of folklore. I'll hunt it up and let you know. And that one with Samuel Carter was a Union soldier. We are just about to the point. We just got a few minutes left before we're going to be taking a quick pause. But when we come back, we've got a similar story, but only this time from a Confederate. So I think we're starting to build a pattern here. And yes, I do think what was carrying off the dead was likely a Bigfoot, but I don't think that rules out the possibility of all manner of other supernatural things there, including when you have that much death in one place, it's certainly going to attract dark entities that may have never been alive. Like Robbie was saying, it might attract some sort of demon. God knows what the Cherokee said was already there. You don't call a place the River of Death for for nothing. So I think that ground was already dark, and the fact that there was a major battle fought there is just one of those things that how it seems that darkness calls darkness, and I think we've noticed that out in Moon Valley. And there's not just any one thing out there. There's some really, really dark, malevolent crap going on out in Moon Valley. And I think that it's just a microcosm of what happened at Chickamauga. Because, yeah, there have been people killed out in Moon Valley, but it ain't on the order of what happened at that battle.
But as far as brutality and the things that happened to them, it may have equaled that.
Yeah.
Just, or not brutal, but the reasoning.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with it too.
And the intent behind the people who did it.
Quality versus quantity, that old adage.
That old saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think,
That
some
old
places,
chestnut.
yeah, I think some places are just dark. I think some places have an evil stain upon them, and there's just no way to completely cleanse it, ever make it a great place again. And I think Chickamauga and places like Chickamauga and Gettysburg, places that have seen that much death and violence, I don't think that land will ever be the same. And it's just what kind of darkness does that kind of death attract? And I think it runs the gamut.
A lot.
Yeah, it definitely attracts a lot. Well, we're just a couple minutes away from taking a quick break. But folks, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about this? That you just heard the one story, and from this young private laying on the battlefield with shrapnel in his leg. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it's a Bigfoot type creature? Do you think it's something supernatural or something in between? Thank you, Miss Lene. Appreciate the reminder. We actually got about 2 minutes. We'd start to break at about 5 till. So, how do you guys? Cajun says he thinks it's all of those.
Yeah,
I do too. I think it's a little bit of everything. That land has certainly got enough darkness there to attract all of it. I think it was Bigfoot carrying off the bodies, but I think some of the things that people have seen may lend themselves to the supernatural or certainly the paranormal. Kevin says, I wonder if all the blood spilled over to history had anything to do with the glow and the healing of wounds. It could. It might have been what inspired the bacteria to grow in that soil, because it only grows under very specific circumstances. K. Bauer says, DA being a life force spilled in that amount on any land, I'm sure is a powerful thing. Oh, absolutely. Any of those places that have been marked by that much death, I think they're all going to be cursed to an extent, certainly haunted. And that's why we get so many stories of hauntings from Civil War battlefields and even Revolutionary War battlefields, because there were a lot of loss of life. Toshi says it's pretty freaky, but just a Bigfoot. I think it might be a few other creatures doing something supernatural affecting the area too. I think the area certainly attracts that kind of thing. And because of the amount of bloodshed that's been there, I think it always will. And having said that, it's time to make a quick stop to pay the bills. We are going to take a moment. If you guys need to refill your cup of coffee or you want to step away from the computer, we will be back in just a few minutes after we hear this brief pause from our affiliates.
The Onyx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes, made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unnext Network website at unnextnetwork.com. That's unnextnetwork.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unnext Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unnextmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unnextmedia.com or amazon.com. In the shadows of forgotten lore, where legends leave footprints and nightmares are written in blood. He's the voice of modern horror, the best-selling author and cryptid researcher, the name behind the nightmare. D.A. Roberts. Joining him in the field, renowned author and field investigator, the man who tracks what others fear to name. The cryptid hunter, the cast master, the one they call Robbie Jed Rains. And the voice of reason in the madness, the analyst, the investigator, the one who sees through the fog. Carrie Doc Davis. Together, they walk the edge of legend and reality. This is the Nightmare Hunter Podcast.
And folks, we are back. Thank you guys for bearing with us. And we're going to jump right back into this one because some of these stories are really pretty freaky, folks. Robbie, you want to read the next one?
Sure thing. Old Green Eyes, a Confederate encounter. The smoke of the battle still hung heavy over the Chickamauga, as night fell on September 20th, 1863. Corporal Elijah McCord of the 31st Tennessee lay among the shattered pines, his musket lost, his uniform torn. The cries of the wounded echoed through the dark woods. The smell of blood mixed with damp earth. Elijah tried to rise, but his leg gave way. He heard movement in the brush, heavy, deliberate, not the cautious tread of a soldier at first. He thought it was one of the Bragg's men searching for survivors. Then he saw them, 2 burning green eyes, glowing like lanterns in the mist. The figure that emerged was no man. It was tall, broad-shouldered, covered in dark hair that caught in the moonlight. Its face was twisted, more beast than human, with long fangs glinting as it breathed. Elijah froze, clutching the ground, praying it would pass by him. The creature bent low over a fallen Confederate nearby, sniffing, then it let out a guttural growl. With terrifying ease, it lifted the body up and carried it into the trees. Elijah swore he heard more movement deeper in the woods, as if more than one beast prowled the battlefield, feeding on the dead. For the rest of his life, Elijah told no one, but in his journal, found years later by his family, he wrote, "There was something in those woods that night. Not Yank, not Reb, not man at all. Eyes like fire, teeth like knives. It took the dead for its own."
That one will make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah. That was pretty creepy.
Very. And that's the other side of the battlefield. Another survivor from the other side. So we got two survivors of the battle, both describing the exact same thing.
Doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, even the behaviors are similar.
And two people who probably never spoke. Both these stories were written in their journals that were never talked about publicly. And they were found years later by family, and they said almost the exact same thing. What does that tell you as an investigator, DA?
Yeah, that's what we call a clue.
A clue.
Yeah, and the descriptions fit, the behaviors fit. It's just, as a cop, you read these kind of bits of information, and you're just like, yeah, we've clearly got something going on in here, because these two witnesses, not only were they not even on the same side of the battle, in all reality, probably never even met.
Yep. I mean, there's a reason when we investigate things and we roll up to a scene and you got multiple witnesses, you don't talk to them and get their statements right beside each other. You separate them. That way, one, and then the officers go back and talk. Okay, what did this guy say? They said this. What did this guy say? They said this. And we compare notes, and it's kind of the same thing. They're not feeding off each other.
And for UPD says, having fangs make you think it was a dog man? Maybe, or it was just like big incisors. I mean, look at a gorilla. Gorillas have big canine teeth.
Yeah. This could have been a Gugway for all we know.
It very well could have been. But it was certainly, certainly something that ate meat. Which any of those could be. So yeah, I wouldn't rule out a dog man. I wouldn't rule out a Gugway. I wouldn't rule out just about anything, to be honest. And I like the detail in that one. I really do. He, even describing like the way it grunted when it was breathing in, it was picking the guy up, then letting out a guttural growl. That's great detail. It really is. Yep. And then swearing he heard more movement deeper in the woods, as if there was more than one.
Well, you'd almost have to imagine there would be more than one.
At least a family group, maybe more than one family group.
Yeah, especially with it happening on both sides. I mean, you had multiple family groups doing it.
Boondock says that's why I suggested a soul eater, because it shows a living soldier. Or it might have just been wanting to keep the meat better, longer,
fresher meat. I mean, that's bad to say, but that may have that just may be what it was preferring, or that might just been the first. It was intelligent enough to know that the one it picked up was not going to last that long, and it just grabbed the first one it came to.
Tyler, Noah, and I are working on getting those set up as videos, so we should be able to release those pretty soon. It's just a matter of having time to hang out and work with Noah. He works a lot of hours, so it's hard to catch him. Kay Bauer says, lying there seeing that with a leg missing. Nope, I'm good. I'll walk it off. Just a scratch.
Just a flesh wound.
Yep, I'd be hopping my ass out of there if I had to. But these stories don't get any less creepy. There's still more to come, and I think you guys are going to like them. again, the description of this, its behavior, just sounds more like a type of Bigfoot to me. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, I like I said, I'm not gonna rule out Dogman or anything like that, but just based on behavior that we've read in this, to me, that at least the two that we've read, to me, seems more Bigfoot like than it does Dogman, because I would think that if it was a Dogman, it would probably tear into whatever it was picking right there. Because that just seems more like what they do. Look at the family at LBL; they were all torn apart right there on the scene. Most attacks we hear about people talking about it's right there. But how many times do we hear about Bigfoot carrying people off? Lots. So
Yeah.
that's one. At least those two stories right there, to me, lend more to a Bigfoot encounter than dog.
Karen Polson had a great comment. She says, thinking they hear gunfire and come to watch and wait for an opportunity. Well, how many deer hunters have dropped a deer and then it vanished?
Well,
it happened to me.
Think it like I said,
Gunshot means lunch.
Like I've always said, look in nature. That's all you got to do is look in nature. You know how many spear fishermen have been attacked by sharks after they've speared their fish because sharks are conditioned that they hear that spear gun go off and they know what it is and they come to it. It's the same thing. How many times have you heard hunters talk about bears showing up after the gunshot? I mean, I've heard plenty of stories of elk hunters, taking a shot and then not more than a couple minutes later, bears showing up.
Yeah, lots of stories of hunters getting their kills taken by bigger predators. For everything from bears to I've heard of kills being taken by wolves. I mean, wolves are endangered. You can't shoot one. And if one showed up and started taking my deer, I'm going to probably let it have it, simply because I don't want to risk killing an endangered animal for a deer.
Yeah, and I think Camo Dad's got a really good point. If you're dead, you're not showing any fear. And if they're keyed in on fear and you're still alive and you see that might be why it picked up a live one.
Very well could be. Like that sense of fear.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. That one actually gives me more pause than that it was just, selecting them because it was the fresher meat. That one seems a little scarier just when you think about that, because if it wanted it afraid, is that a Bigfoot serial killer? Or is that something possibly supernatural that feeds more on the fear?
Yeah, we've got somebody watching from Wales at 2 a.m.
Wales. That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad you're hanging out with us.
Gareth Davies 9881. Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you. Glad you're here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe to the channel because we'd love to have you stick around. Kay Bauer says, my deer was gone like it was wrapped up in a tarp. No tracks, no blood. Mine, I tracked the blood to where it dropped down into a little ravine. And by the time I found a spot where I could climb down and get back to it, it was gone. And it was clear it had bled out where it fell. But I never found another drop of blood or a track, but it was a gravelly, rocky riverbed, a creek bed. And so I never found another spot. But once my Uncle Buddy found out where I was at, he was telling me on the radio, you need to get the hell out of there. That is not where you want to be.
Look at Lone Queen's comment. Eerily suspicious to you or similar to yours.
Yeah. My mom lost a deer sorry. I thought I read that as mom. It was small print. My man lost a deer that he trailed to a blood pool in what looked like a deathbed, no deer or trail leading off. That's almost exactly what happened to me. And I've talked to a ton of hunters who've had that happen. So some sign of whether it's Bigfoot or not is, anybody's guess. It's pure speculation. But I'm fairly convinced that's what got mine. But they've learned that gunshot means there's going to be an animal down, and they don't have to fight for it
or chase it.
Yeah, it's going to be much easier for them to just grab it and walk away.
So, like I said, we get into some of these other stories, it may be a different thing, but like I said, from what we've read so far, to me, that lends more to Bigfoot behavior.
Oh,
But
I would definitely agree. I think what was carrying people off at Chickamauga was a Bigfoot, but I don't think that's the only thing people are seeing.
no, well, I mean, just like the guy who described the figure in a dark trench coat and all, I don't think that was a Bigfoot. He's probably seeing some type of spectral
Or
apparition.
he just misinterpreted the shaggy hair for a coat.
Yeah, and I guess that's possible too. But I don't know. It just, to me, listening to you describe that, it seemed more of an apparition.
Could have been. It very well could have been. This story is from a park ranger that worked at Chickamauga. He says, I'd been working late at Chickamauga National Military Park, finishing near Snodgrass Hill. The battlefield was quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. Mist curled low over the ground, and the pines stood like sentinels in the dark. Around midnight, I caught movement along the tree line. At first, I thought it was a deer, until I saw them, two glowing green eyes, high off the ground, fixed on me. They weren't headlights, they weren't fireflies, they were watching me. I froze with my hand on my radio. The figure stepped forward, tall and broad, its outline shaggy like a man covered in hair. The face was wrong too long, too heavy, with teeth that caught the moonlight. It let out a low growl, deep enough that I felt it in my chest. Another common report.
Yep.
For a moment, I thought it would charge. Instead, it turned toward the old field hospital site, sniffing at the earth, then vanished into the woods with the speed no man could match. The mist swallowed it whole. I reported it, but of course, some said I'd seen a ghost, others said it was just a trick of the light, but I know what I saw. It wasn't a soldier, it wasn't a cougar. It was something older, something wild, and those eyes, those terrible green eyes, still burn into me.
Interesting. It said it turned towards the old field hospital and
Yeah,
sniffing the ground. So if these things are as in tune with nature as we say they are,
probably still smelling traces of that
I,
blood.
I was just about to say that much blood that soaked into the ground. I'm sure
Plus,
it
how many
changed.
bodies were buried right there on that
Yeah,
battlefield?
I'm sure that stuff like that still kind of. I mean, speaking from a canine handler perspective, a dog's nose is 70,000 times more sensitive than ours. So if these things are at least half that, which they're probably at least that, or maybe even more, but if they're at least half that, then I mean, that's what 35,000 times what could.
Well, how much better is a gorilla's sense of smell than a human's?
Well, I don't know. I just, like I said, I know how much more sensitive a canine's.
That sounds
Basically,
like a question for the Googles.
yep, that's what I was about to say.
I'm going to do that. Now, tell us more about the dog's sense of smell.
So basically, how my instructor explained it to me. So putting it in old redneck terms where I can understand it. It's like the example he gave is like if I walk into your house, DA, and you're cooking spaghetti, and I smell the sauce cooking, it smells just like spaghetti sauce.
Mm-hmm.
But the way a canine's nose determines it is they smell the meat. They smell each individual spice and things you put in that. They smell everything and can categorize each individual smell within the entire smell. That's how people say, "Oh, I can fool them dogs." When I got my dog, I said, "Man, I want to try this out." So I went and bought some of them big Folgers coffee cans. I don't even know if they still sell them, the big metal ones. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they don't sell them metal anymore. They're plastic now.
The ones that are about that big and about that big around. I think I bought 4 of them, and we went down where I was doing training with another buddy of mine, and he put about that much marijuana in a little bag, buried it in one of those cans, and then I didn't even know which one it was in, and I took my dog out there and he spread them out so She wasn't getting any drift off of it, and she nailed it in amongst all that other coffee smell. So for them to be able to pick out that odor in amongst all that, I mean, that's telling of how, how intricate. Basically, if you pulled out their olfactory, and I think it's called the Jacobson, or that may just be in snakes. But anyway, the layers and the membranes and all that stuff that's inside their nose, if you pulled it out and stretched it out, I want to say he said it would almost cover a football field.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, that's because that's what a dog is. Its primary, sense is smell. That's what it hunts with. That's how it finds things. And I think, you start getting into other animals like sharks who have to smell stuff in water. Theirs are even more advanced than that. So,
well, from what Google says, it says a gorilla's sense of smell isn't dramatically superior to humans in overall power like a dog's, but genetically, gorillas and other gray apes retain significantly more functional olfactory receptor genes than humans, suggesting a better ability to detect and differentiate smells, especially for social cues like reproductive status, even though humans rely more on vision and touch. Gorillas can identify individual body odors and use scent for communication, indicating a sophisticated, though less emphasized olfactory sense. So while we have the similar amount of olfactory receptors, theirs are still active, while a lot of ours have atrophied over the centuries. So similar nasal structure, but they're just much better at it because they rely on it and we don't.
yep.
Yeah. Wiley? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wyatt? I said Wiley.
You said that, and I was like, Wiley's here?
Yeah, cadaver dogs have found cadaver dogs have found bodies years after they've been buried. When you wouldn't think there'd be anything left to smell, but they sure still find it.
And they can smell them over water, too. I've actually witnessed that before.
That's crazy. I've never seen it over water. I've heard about it, never seen it.
We had a missing person that I won't say it was Lake Kiwi, and at the time Greenville County was the only one that had a cadaver dog, and we thought that they fell out of a boat and drowned. We weren't sure, and guy brought it down. Greenville County had their little Zodiac, and the dog was up in the bow. And they were just kind of trolling around, and the dog actually alerted. Dive team went down, and sure enough, they found him right where the dog alerted.
That's wild, man. It's amazing how a dog's sense of smell works. And then you got Harley, who can't find a treat when I hide it in my hand.
And if I remember this, because this was years ago, but if I remember right, I want to say it was like 25 plus feet of water.
That's a lot. That's a lot of water to find something like that in.
Guys, I had a dog. We'd be at the lake. I could pick up a rock and mark it and throw it in the water. He'd go in there and dive down and get it, bring it back.
That exact rock?
Exactly.
Dude, that's crazy.
And I had his mama, and she couldn't do it. I had his mama and him. His mama was the smartest dog I ever had. She's half border collie, half golden retriever. And he had this ability. I don't know. I've heard that people having dogs that could do it, but it was it was crazy to me how a dog could sense a rock, 18 inches under the water, 20 inches under the water, and find that exact same rock. But he did
brilliant, man.
He did it.
They are certainly a lot more smart than people, a lot smarter than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than one reason why we domesticated them, I guarantee you.
Yep.
Well, Robbie, do you want to read the tourist story?
Sure will. Old Green Eyes, a tourist encounter. It was a humid summer evening when Marjorie and her husband decided to drive through Chickamauga National Military Park after dark. They spent the day walking through the trails, reading plaques, and imagining the chaos of the Civil War. But at night, the battlefield felt different, heavier, quieter, as if the woods themselves remembered. As their car wound past Snodgrass Hill, we heard that before, Marjorie noticed what looked like two headlights hovering in the mist ahead. She told her husband to slow down, but as they drew closer, the lights shifted. Not headlights at all, but two glowing green eyes high above the ground, fixed on them. The figure stepped from the tree line, tall and broad, its outline shaggy like a man covered in hair. For a moment, it stood still, watching. Then it let out a low growl that rattled the car windows. Her husband slammed the accelerator, but when they looked back, the creature was gone, swallowed by the fog. Later at the visitor center, they mentioned what they'd seen. The ranger only nodded and said, "You're not the first, folks. They call it old green eyes."
And the ranger was just matter of fact about it. Like, yep, you're not the first ones to report that. That's wild.
Yep.
Because when I asked the rangers about it in LBL, they're like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And that one, again, Snodgrass Hill.
Yep.
So if we were ever going to make our way to old Chickamauga, a good place to set up and start checking out would be Snodgrass Hill.
Sounds like it.
Camo Dad says always the fog and the mist. Well, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, wouldn't they move in something that could help conceal them?
Yeah.
Not to mention that's some area with moving water and very damp ground, so it's very conducive for fog. Probably happens quite a bit in that park. What do you think, Robbie? You've been out there. You got foggy when you were out there with Jessica, didn't it?
I think the first time we were out there, it was kind of foggy. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Those mountains get misty. I mean,
Yeah.
They call them the Smoky Mountains for a reason up in Tennessee, because they produce their own fog. It's pretty common in mountainous areas to see that fog rolling through the low spots in the valleys. Yeah, what they say in the 13th Warrior, to beware the fog.
Yep.
They come in the mist.
Beware.
They always come in the mist. And incidentally, I was just reading an article about that the wood woes that Grendel was based on. In the original Beowulf, they referred to it as a hairy beast descended from Cain. What has people said about Bigfoot?
There's Nephilim and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
That it was a descendant of Cain.
Yep.
It's funny that Beowulf would say that. Why, it says, I know when it gets foggy, misty on the lakes, we have activity sometimes. I know when I'm out camping, if it starts getting foggy, it's a good time to stick close to camp. It's weird how fog deadens sound. It just, that fog in the air makes even all the sounds around you seem to just kind of go away. It's like you're lost in the middle of nothing.
Well, and like that time out there, the first time that I went out there with Jessica, that's what it was. Everything was just, it was like we were at a concert and all of a sudden it just went, just like somebody unplugged the jukebox and it just went. And that I'm now that you mentioned, I'm about 100% sure that it was foggy, which made it even creepier.
Yeah, because I remember when you were saying when you were coming back down the hill and you looked back up, you saw something dark between the trees, and you said it was hazy because of the fog.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought I remembered you telling me, but it was foggy up there, and that's not that far away.
No, it's about a little over an hour from where I'm at right now. Dogman killed the jukebox last night.
Didn't like what you were playing.
Yeah.
You got tired of hearing friends in low places.
It played a sad song that made him cry.
Got tired of hearing Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Well, this next story, folks, this is from a scout leader with a group of scouts, and this one I think you guys are going to enjoy. The troop had spent the day hiking Chickamauga National Military Park, learning about the battle and its history. By dusk, the boys were restless, laughing as they set up camp near the tree line. As scout leader, Mark Reynolds checked the fire. He noticed the woods had gone strangely quiet. No crickets, no owls, just silence. He gathered the scouts for a story, telling them about the Civil War soldiers who fought here. But halfway through, one of the boys pointed to the trail and said, Mr. Reynolds, what's that? Two glowing green eyes hovered above the ground, too high to be an animal. The figure stepped into view, tall, broad, shaggy, its outline unmistakably humanoid. The boys fell silent, clutching each other. The creature let out a low growl, deep and resonant, before turning toward the old battlefield clearing. It moved with unnerving speed, vanishing into the mist. The scouts whispered nervously, some insisting it was a ghost, while others swore that it looked like Bigfoot that they'd seen in the books. Mark calmed them down, but inside he was shaken. He'd heard the legend of Old Green Eyes before, but seeing it, those burning eyes, that hulking shape, convinced him that this was no ghost story. Later he wrote in his journal, I've led scouts through many woods, but never have I felt watched like that. Old Green Eyes is real, and it walks Chickamauga.
Yeah, that'd be would you look at the time, boys?
Yeah, like, all right, everybody in the van. We'll come get our camping shit tomorrow. Yeah, the whole troop of scouts saw that one.
And there again, a lot of the same descriptors: moving in the mist, growling, green eyes, looking at them, watching them. I mean, and these things are separated by, well, obviously the Civil War accounts are separated by hundreds of years, but they're all the same, or roughly.
Yeah. What do you want to bet about half them kids probably never wanted to step foot in the woods again?
Like, can I get my money back?
I don't want to be a scout no more. That one, I feel bad for those kids, man.
Yeah, I mean,
but again, the descriptions are spot on.
I can sympathize with them because I know how it feels to be that age and have something like that.
Well, they didn't have to worry about the adults saying, no, you didn't see anything, because the adults saw it with them.
Yeah. Very good point.
Come on, boys. Camping tip number 14. See weird crap, load up and leave.
Mr. Reynolds, do we get our Bigfoot badge for this?
And get their cryptid award. Boy Scouts now offering a cryptozoology badge. Robbie, I think this worked out perfect.
Yeah,
this next one's from a patrolman.
I was just thinking that. Old Green Eyes, a patrolman's encounter. It was just past midnight when Officer Daniel Hayes of the Georgia Highway Patrol cruised along the stretch of road cutting through Chickamauga National Military Park. The fog was thick, rolling low across the asphalt, and the battlefield lay silently under the moon. Hayes had worked this route for years, breaking up late-night drag races and checking on stranded motorists. But that night, something felt different, heavier, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. Up ahead, he saw what looked like two headlights hovering in the mist. He slowed, expecting another car, but as he drew closer, the lights shifted. Not headlights at all, but two glowing green eyes high above the ground and fixed on him. There's that descriptor again. The figure stepped from the tree line. It was tall, broad, and shaggy, and its outline unmistakably humanoid. Hayes gripped the wheel, heart pounding. The creature stood in the road for a moment, watching him, then let out a low growl that rattled the patrol car's frame. Instinct took over. Hayes hit the siren and the lights. The beast flinched, then vanished into the fog with a speed no man could match. When he reported the incident to dispatch, dispatch logged it as unidentified animal sighting, but Hayes knew better. Later, he told a fellow officer, that wasn't a bear and it wasn't a man. Those eyes, they were alive and they were hunting. Yee. Yeah, I'll be like, Captain, can I switch patrol areas, please?
Yeah. Can I get some desk duty for a little while? Because I ain't going back out there.
Kevin's got a good point. He wonders if the sightings coincide with any anniversary of the battle or anything like that.
I had not looked. That'd be something worth looking into, though.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any dates on any of these, so I don't know. But
the battle was in September. One of the things we've noticed is they do seem to be more active in the fall. That's a very interesting point. Might be worth digging into. We've still got a few stories to get through, so we're going to keep going. This next one, I think you guys are going to like. This one is called Old Green Eyes. Yeah, the Old Green Eyes, a motorist's encounter. The fog was thick that night as Jacob pulled his car to the shoulder along the winding road through Chickamauga National Military Park. His engine had sputtered, coughed, and died, leaving him stranded in the silence of the battlefield. He stepped out, flashlight in hand, the beam cutting through the mist. At first, he thought he heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, pacing just beyond the tree line. Then came the smell, damp earth mixed with something sour like wet fur. He swung the light toward the sound, and that's when he saw them. Two glowing green eyes hovering high above the ground, fixed on him. There's that phrase again, fixed on him. The figure stepped forward, tall and shaggy, its outline massive against the fog. Jacob froze, heart pounding. The creature's face was twisted, more beast than man, with long hair and teeth that caught the light. It let out a low growl deep enough to rattle his chest, and then moved closer, sniffing at the air. Jacob stumbled back toward his car, fumbling for the door. Just as he slammed it shut, the beast pressed a hand, broad, hairy, and with long fingers, against the window glass. For a moment, man and monster stared at each other through the glass. Then, with a guttural snarl, it turned and vanished into the woods, vanishing into the mist. Hours later, when a tow truck finally arrived, Jacob tried to explain what he'd seen. The driver only shook his head and said, "You're not the first to say something like that. They call it Old Green Eyes around here."
Cajun says it reminds him of Congo when they said teacher is watching.
Yeah.
It's watching, always watching.
Steve Patton says, DA, what if they're more active during different hunting seasons? That would make sense. I mean, look at the behavior of deer when hunting season happens. You can be in an area checking your food plots and see 1,000 deer over the course of a month, but then you go back on opening day and they ain't around. You cannot find a one. I think the deer are smart enough to figure out when they're going to get hunted, and I definitely think these things are smart enough to follow them. Karen Polson says, so was Green Eyes still looking for food when it sees us humans? I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we ever left the menu. It's just whether or not it's convenient. Miss Lene said she died. She would have died. Yeah, if I had that thing on the other side of my window with its hand on my window, yeah, that was, as Doc would put it, that would be a definite brown pants moment.
Long Queen's got a really good point. And she said it seems like these Bigfoot are almost trying to find somebody that they can either scare into incapacitation or testing them for future reference. And maybe that's why all these people are having the same type of encounter and feel like they're being watched and or hunted. Maybe that's what it does.
I wonder how many people have gone missing in that park.
That might be a Google's question.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to read the next one, I will look up how many people have gone missing in Chickamauga.
Old Green Eyes, Tenny's encounter. The battlefield was quiet that night in 1976. The kind of silence that pressed against Edward Tenney's ears as he drove his patrol route through Chickamauga National Military Park. As a park historian, he knew every hill, every monument, every story carved into the land, but nothing in the history books prepared him for what he was about to see. Fog curled low across the road, swallowing the headlights. Edward slowed, scanning the tree line. That's when he saw them, two glowing greenish-orange eyes hovering above the ground and fixed on him. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, maybe a reflection, maybe an animal, but then the figure stepped forward. It was tall, broad-shouldered, and shaggy. Its outline was humanoid. Long hair hung around its face, and when the headlights caught it, Edward saw teeth, jagged, fanged, and glinting in the mist. The creature's eyes burned like lanterns, unblinking but alive. Edward's breath caught. He gripped the wheel as the figure moved closer. Its gait was heavy, deliberate, more beast than man. For a moment, it stood in the road staring at him, as if deciding whether or not to strike. Then, with a guttural growl, it turned and vanished into the woods. The silence returned, but Edward knew it wasn't empty. Something was out there, watching. Later, when he told the story, he described it as a wild. It was described as a wild, or he described it, as wild, animal-like, not human at all. He insisted it wasn't a ghost, but a creature, something older and something that belonged to the forest more than to the battlefield. And so the legend lives on. Old Green Eyes, the beast of Chickamauga, revealed itself not just to soldiers and tourists, but to the very man entrusted with guarding its history.
That's a creepy story.
Yeah, so I think he's trying to, people were probably trying to tell him that it was, a ghost. He's like, no, this had nothing to do with just the battlefield. This is something
that was already here.
Yeah.
So, you want to hear the results of my Googling?
Sure.
Well, Chickamauga is administered by the National Park Service. So the National Park Service will not release the number of people who've disappeared in it.
Well, ain't that oddity? I've never heard that before.
But here's something I did find about the battle itself. They said they believed there were 35,000 killed in the battle, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But there are thousands of bodies still unaccounted for.
That's interesting.
From the census of the records from the units that fought there are still thousands of bodies that were never found.
Probably because they were drug off.
Hey, man, that battlefield like that is a predator's buffet. So just any meat eater within 20 miles was probably dragging something off.
Yeah.
And that definitely include the cryptid population. But it seems kind of odd to me that we're getting all these great stories, yet the National Park Service will not release the number of missing persons in the park.
Well, I mean, if they did, they'd probably lose a lot of tourists.
Probably. And well, look what happened when David Paulides tried to do a Freedom of Information Act on it. At first, they told him no such list existed, but then they told him it was going to cost like $3 million to compile it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what'd we say?
Yeah, entertainment purposes only.
What'd we say the National Park Service was like a $33 million a year industry.
33 billion. 33 billion.
Oh, was a billion? I was thinking
Yeah,
it was a
it was
million.
33 billion a year. 33 million is chump change to our government anymore.
True.
You can't buy a decently placed politician for 33 million. Yet
True.
big corporations buy them all the time. Entertainment purposes only. I'm just kidding. But now I've got one more story for y'all, and then it's heading toward the top of the second hour, so we're gonna probably have to start winding things down after this story. But this one, well, this one's interesting because this is from Ambrose Bierce, who fought there. He was a famous writer in the 1800s, brilliant writer. But Ambrose Bierce was wounded at Chickamauga, and this story is based on what he wrote about after the battle. It says the boy wandered through the woods, clutching his toy sword, imagining himself a conqueror. The forest was alive with shadows, and in his innocence, he mistook the crawling soldiers for playmates. They dragged themselves through the brush, broken and bleeding, their eyes hollow with pain. He laughed, waving his sword, believing he led them. But as dusk fell, the mist thickened. The groans of the wounded gave way to something deeper, a growl, low and resonant, vibrating through the trees. The boy turned, and there, beyond the crawling men, stood a figure. Two glowing green eyes pierced the fog. The creature was tall, shaggy, and its outline massive against the battlefield haze. Its face was twisted, more beast than man, with teeth that caught the dim light. The soldiers seemed not to notice, too lost in their agony, but the boy froze, transfixed. The beast moved among the fallen, sniffing, dragging bodies into the woods. Bierce would later write of the child's shattered innocence, of war's grotesque reality. But in the whispers that followed, locals said the boy had seen more than just the horror of the battlefield. He had glimpsed old Green Eyes himself, predator spirit of Chickamauga. In Bierce's tale, the boy returns home to find his mother dead, his world consumed by fire. But in the legend, old Green Eyes remains, a creature born of carnage, haunting the battlefield still.
That's a mite spooky.
And a big chunk of that mist that was on the field that day was probably cannon fire.
Yeah.
Look how smoky reenactments get. All those old black powder rifles and those cannons going off, man, the smoke would have been thick as fog.
Yeah, and it seems like fog and mist is a that could be a hunting strategy.
Very much so. And I think these stories are very good at captivating the essence of what's going on at Chickamauga. There's a lot of similarities in these stories, and I think it lends credence that there's more than one thing wandering that old battlefield.
Oh, I agree. I like I said, I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think, I think people have seen supernatural type things there, but I 100% believe that there's cryptids that have been attracted to that and are still probably attracted to it.
And I think, it was there before the battle, but I think the battle really brought it out. And who knows, it may still be wandering the battlefield, smelling that lingering smell of death.
Yeah, Cajun's got a good point too. Black powder smoke would probably cover that putrid smell that's always, associated with it.
Oh, yeah. And there had to have been just tons of black powder smoke floating across that battlefield.
Well, that and probably, the smell of blood was probably far overpowering anything else, because that many people getting mangled like that. I mean, you and I both have been in places where just one or two people have been messed up, and that smell is overpowering. So I can imagine how it would be with that many people bleeding profusely. And, I'm sure there was, probably burns and things like that. So you probably had burnt flesh from cannonballs exploding, and the smell of burnt flesh is something you never forget.
Screaming and dying men, screaming and dying horses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would to walk up on that battlefield. Even, probably even just imagining it to this day, standing out looking out over that field, just imagining that whole field was covered with the dead. That's got to be just a gut punch. I mean, just to feel that.
House in the house.
What's up, House? Glad you're feeling better, brother.
Yep.
But folks, we are coming up on the top of the hour, and as we start winding things down, let's take a quick minute to talk about the good folks that have sponsored our channel for so long. Dark Angel Medical is a veteran-owned company. Doc owns it. You guys know him quite well. He had 210 saves to date. And we preach it all the time. If you're going to be going out in the woods, camping, fishing, hunting, anything, Bigfoot hunting, take a med kit because, as Doc is fond of saying, the time chooses you. Because it's one of those things, if you ever need a med kit and you don't have one, odds are very good you will never need it again. Especially if you're away from basic 911 services, which we are in a lot of cases. So check out darkangelmedical.com. Don't forget to use discount code CRYPTID20 for 20% off your order, and tell Doc we sent you. And another one that we're particularly fond of is the good folks over at Scallywag Tactical. They make amazing blades for just about any occasion. I generally carry 2 to 3 on me at any given time because different blades, different things require different blades. You wouldn't want to cut something very delicate with something that's just basically a camp knife. But in other occasions, you want a knife that's, absolutely razor sharp. But, different things call for a different blade. So I generally carry more than one. And Scallywag makes some awesome blades. So check them out at scallywagtactical.com. Don't forget to use discount code DARoberts10 for 10% off at checkout. And let them know we sent you because they're a veteran-owned company and they're a good group of guys. And last but not least is our newest one, SigwoArms.com. Sigwo is a licensed gun manufacturer here in Springfield, Missouri. They have the licensing to make Dark Frontiers and codename Wild Hunt etchings on your upper or lower, whichever you choose, or even on the slide of a pistol. But they manufacture in-house. They also produce their own ammunition, and you can get it at really good prices. SigwoArms.com. Don't forget to use discount code Bigfoot5 for 5% off your order. And believe me, that does add up when you're buying pew-pews. And if you want a whisper pickle to protect your hearing, they have those too. So check them out and let them know we sent you. Let the Codys know that we sent you. And I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you guys. And Robbie, tell us about the books.
All right. As you know, you can get DA's books at Amazon.com or DARoberts.net. DA's got 35 or 36. 37. I'll get it in a minute. 37 books in print, working on 38 right now, and probably got 39 through 50 in the works. Also check out our good friend Luca Jacobs. She does the cover art for DA and I. Luca makes some really good books, writes in the same genre that DA and I do. She's getting ready to do one based in Texas. I think that's going to be another Nicole Beretti. They're going to go after the Chupacabra, I believe, if I remember correctly what she said. But go check her out and check mine out. My newest book, Grail, the second Grail book, Avalon Rising, was doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm working on the next 2 projects myself.
It's doing more than pretty well. It's number 1 in its category.
Well, I mean, thank you. You know I'm not going to toot my own horn. But the next 2 projects I'm working on, Valley of Bones, and the other one is Shadow Hunters, which is Project Manticore, and that is introducing the East Coast division of the Wild Hunt. So it is part of the Wild Hunt, but it's a little bit of different principle because the way DA and I have kind of just set these things up is the Midwest is kind of in the middle of the country and it's kind of the biggest unit. So it goes and This is more of a small, streamlined, tip of the spear type unit.
Think
But
of them as a QRF for
yeah,
those of you who've been in the military. And any of those of you who don't know, quick reaction force.
yep. So I think you're going to enjoy it. He's one of my readers, and Miss Lene's been reading it. So I'll leave that to you, Miss Lene. But I'm having fun with these next two books. Hopefully, probably maybe by the 1st of January, I'll have one of them ready, and then February the next one. So I just don't know which one of them's going to be which or I guess it depends on how far or what comes up in DA's project he's working on now as to which one of Shadow Hunters or Leviathan Down.
Leviathan Down's what I'm working on, but I don't know how quickly I'll have it done.
We haven't haven't fully figured out which one needs to come out first. Is what I'm trying to say. Or how I should have said. I don't think it is really going to matter on this one because I think they're both kind of happening simultaneously. So it probably really doesn't matter. Like the reason Grail, the second Grail book came out later was because you needed to read stuff from the Dark Frontiers book before you read the Grail book because of the way things. So that's kind of the challenge. It's been fun. It's a fun challenge for both of us. But that's been kind of why we've had to do things like this because, if you read something in my book that happens before something that was supposed to happen in his book, it kind of. So we've been having to kind of, okay, does this need to come out first? No, I think this needs to come out first. Okay, well, so we're working on it. But I think y'all enjoy all of them. Leviathan Down's pretty good too. From what he's got out so far, it's going to be a really good one.
Thanks, brother. Don't forget to check out Luca T. Jacobs. I mean, lucatjacobs.com. She's a fantastic writer, and she just released a bunch of stuff for Christmas. And hey, folks, books make great stocking stuffers. So, hint, hint. If you've got folks on your Christmas list that are hard to shop for, get them a book, put it in their stocking. Let's see if we can make that a tradition. Giving books as Christmas gifts or stocking stuffers, because it's a journey that they can take multiple times. It's a shared. And I'm not just trying to plug my own books. I'm saying if you've got a favorite author out there and you know people that like to read, put a book in their stocking. I think that'd be a wonderful Christmas tradition.
That's what got my reading journey started. My uncle gave me Doc Savage was the first book that I ever really got that I read and enjoyed. You remember that old book?
I remember that series. There was a whole bunch of those books.
Mm-hmm.
I read a ton of those books back in the 80s, like the Doc Savage books, the Mac Bolan books, the Hawker books, the Traveler series. I read a lot of those cheap little paperbacks. They were fun to read.
Yep. Doc Savage was basically really the first super soldier. Well, I don't know if he was the first. I don't know if he came out before Captain America, but he was basically a super soldier. He was kind of like Captain America, Batman, Iron Man, and a couple others all rolled into one.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun.
But yeah, like DA said, books make great stocking stuffers.
Thank you, Miss Lene.
Thanks, Miss Lene. Hopefully you'll be getting an update tomorrow.
But again, check out Lucas' books, check out Robbie's books, check out my books at daroberts.net, or you can find all of us at amazon.com. And, if you are a fan of books and you know people that like to read, books are the perfect gift. So check them out, and we would love to hear what you guys think, and we can't wait to share more stories with you, because it's something we've said and something I will always stick with is that stories are journeys that we take together, and I'm proud that you guys have chosen to take these journeys with us. And before we wind it down completely,
thank you, Toshi. Just want to say that, but you might want to read that one before you wind it down completely.
Thank you, Toshi. I appreciate that, brother. That is awesome. Thank you. One thing I always want to mention before we end the show is the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. Although the other day, Doc was telling us
No, Steve told us.
Oh, Steve was telling us
Yeah.
that the most recent estimates have it down to almost to 17 a day. So it's still called mission22.org or the 22 a day foundation, but so far we've made headway. It's down to 17. So 17 more to go, folks. Let's get that down to 0 where it needs to be. Check on your friends and family, especially with the holidays here. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care, because these folks are facing demons that, unless you've worn a uniform, you could never understand. Let them know you're thinking about them, because it is PTSD, and some of the things that they've had to experience and witness will haunt these men and women for the rest of their lives. So check on them. Let them know they're not alone, and let them know they're not facing this alone. And let's get 22 a day down from 17 a day down to 0 a day. And check out the ODMP Officer Down Memorial page, and you can see the toll that's taken on our first responders as well. So it doesn't matter what uniform they wore, doesn't matter what branch of service or what branch of first responder they were. Check on them. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care, and let them know they got someplace to be this holiday. They don't have to face it alone. So with that said, a big shout out, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. We will be back with you guys on Saturday night, and I hope you guys will enjoy that one as well. But again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I hope you guys had as good a time as we did talking about the old green eyes of Chickamauga. And we're going to be bringing you guys many more interesting topics that we can sit and chat about. And since we got about 3 minutes to go and our outro is about 3 minutes, Race, take us home. Good night, everybody. I forgot the toast.
Plains, the winds are howling, saloon doors swinging, shadows growling. 3 lawmen stand tough as rawhide. Yeah, Doc and DA, nothing can abide. Whiskey shots and poker faces, staring down the darkest spaces in this town where legends roam. These boys bring justice, sending evil home. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Jed's a howler, claws of steel, Doc's a biter, makes the devil real. But DA's a shifty one, a shape-shifting soul, can turn to anything, takes any form, takes control. Tonight the chupacabras come to town, sucking the life from all around. But these lawmen, they ain't afraid, they'll face the darkness unafraid. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and range. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Full moon rises, bat wings flap, the air grows cold, a chill and trap. But these lawmen, they're ready to fight underneath the pale moonlight. Jed and Doc transform with a howl, DA shifts, becomes a night owl. Together they stand a force so strong against the evil right in the road. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, see